since the likes of Lauren Southern, Katie Hopkins, Willem Petzer and others have brought the plight of white South Africans to the attention of the global public, the situation in that troubled country has even further deteriorated. Since then, the extreme left-wing racist government of the ANC and South African Communist Party has announced a new policy whereby all white farms will be nationalized. At the same time, farm murders are escalating. Many in the international community are in shock or total denial. How is it possible that things have gone so severely wrong in South Africa? How is it possible that the miracle rainbow nation of Nelson Mandela could have landed on a trajectory where whites are being slaughtered on a daily basis, where 118 racist laws effectively ban them from every sphere of society, and where finally all their land and ultimately all their property could be confiscated? The apparent contrast between the reconciliation euphoria of the 1990s and the dystopia which South Africa has become beckons disbelief for most observers. However, for the realists among us, the true moment of surprise is that so many never saw this moment coming, that so many were completely duped by all the anti-apartheid propaganda and Mandela adulation in the first instance. How is it possible that so many got to view as utterly evil a Western minority who was desperately trying to prevent a black Marxist takeover of their land of birth? How is it possible that a convicted communist terrorist and his gang of Africanist Marxists got to be seen as saints who will bring peace and harmony to this historically highly divided society? What most never recognized was that one man, one vote in a unitary state was bound to put South Africa on a trajectory towards eventual self-destruction. Samuel Huntington warned the government that such a system would undeniably lead South Africa towards a crisis. While most of us understand that apartheid was a failed system that had to be replaced, it was immensely naive to think that a Western-style liberal democracy could ever succeed in an African context where two societies have been in constant conflict for more than 300 years. This was a doomed project from the very start. The negotiated settlement between the white minority government under international pressure and the Soviet-sponsored ANC and South African Communist Party was nothing less than minority racial suicide. Despite its flaws, apartheid's logic of political independence for all ethnic groups and its security bulwark against Soviet-inspired takeover was a necessary exercise in risk management during the Cold War. Only when the Soviet Union collapsed could the white government seriously consider a multiracial democracy. However, such a system would have had to be negotiated with the utmost caution and with an unwavering attempt to keep at least some power or an autonomous region in the hands of the minority. This would have been the only way to safeguard this minority from future reprisal from a vengeful majority. Due to too much international pressure and various internal factors, all of which requires a video of their own, the White National Party government completely abdicated to a band of terrorists who would install a slow and creeping revolution called transformation, or the National Democratic Revolution, which would ultimately reduce whites to virtual non-citizens in the country they have worked and cultivated for 350 years. Such slow revolution would be accompanied by an equally slow and creeping genocide. The historical hatred of blacks towards whites is so intense that none of what is transpiring now should surprise anyone. Though the relative oppression of blacks under apartheid have been grossly exaggerated by the Western media and other leftists, it was inevitable that blacks would have hated a minority who managed to tame the mostly arid and previously empty land which blacks never managed to settle by themselves. It was only when Western irrigation and other agricultural methods were introduced in this hinterland that the blacks, previously limited by the lack of know-how to a slim coastal strip, could also settle the hinterland. Inevitably, the more successful Western minority outperformed them at every level and managed to gain political power over them. South Africa's failure is the direct result of a political system which does not take this historical animosity into account. It is a system which idealistically ignores the facts on the ground. Sadly, the worst is yet to come.